Hello, welcome to the second episode devoted to overweight and eating disorders. How can we listen to our body? What's the logic of the links between emotion and symptom or dysfunctions? Today we are going to see 3 new functions of fat that can be indicators in the search for the cause of overweight. An abused function of fat protects yourself from the cold. Fat allows the body to maintain an adequate temperature for the proper functioning of its organs. On the subject of overweight, I have always been surprised by the use of the term morbid obesity. What does the word morbid means when we talk about overweight? I realized that the concerned persons very often have links with a certain representation of the cold. Cold can represent a distant person or a cold relationships. Cold can also have more intimate portraits like the death of something deep inside. When we experience a crisis or a difficult moment so unbearable, it may happen that parts of us wish we were no longer here. So of course, we're still alive, but inside some part of us may have been extinguished. Under this condition, the fat will accumulate as if to warm up this dead part. One of my patients, for example, experienced a very strong aggression at the age of 8. In this instance, he felt helpless, fragile, but above all, he thought that if it was not here, everything would be easier. If he died, he would not suffer, and so that part of him became extinct. What was astounding in therapy was that by allowing him to reconnect to this moment, allowed him to restart this part of himself and to live again completely. Another function of fat, having a gender identity. Being a man or woman defines the difference in the amount of fat. An average woman has 20% more fat than men. What could this extra 20% that we so often seek to lose be used for? This excess fat is used to protect, allow pregnancy, and have enough reserve to feed the child until they can eat alone. Biologically or morphologically, women have more fat, and it's situated differently compared to men. Fat gives women a shape to show their qualities for good reproduction and of their potential to ensure the survival of the species. Men, on the other hand, will have different morphology with wider shoulders to indicate their ability to protect their family. This morphological observation makes it possible to realize that women sometimes fight against a few extra pounds that are rooted in their genes, because femininity is ancestrally linked to a certain roundness. So, when women look in the mirror and find themselves ugly and insufficiently feminine, body memory will not make them lose weight, but instead accentuate their curves to be more attractive as a nourishing woman. We see here the important difference between a psychological desire and a biological function. It's therefore more important to work on the acceptance of our feminine identity and some of its curves. The last function of fat, to be at the service of others. Like most of connective tissues, the fat, like bone, ligaments, etc., are not organs in proper terms, but they are at the service of the other. It's interesting to retain this notion as another hypothesis linked to overweight. Indeed, many patients retain this hypothesis. They feel completely at the service of others. How can we be your true self if the most important is to put other before yourself in order to feel love or even just to exist? I am here for other. I only exist if I'm here for them. This phrase that hear very often means that patients have trouble living for themselves. These persons find themselves trapped in a complex relationship. In fact, to exist, they must be with others to feel loved, and at the same time, others are sometimes dangerous, judgmental, and therefore one must also protect oneself from this. A paradox between feeling loved and protecting oneself. To be seen, to be with others, all while being apart. Overweight is the ideal answer. This person increase their contact surface, so no one can ignore them. Often, they are also smiling, funny, and in the same time, their weight hides who they are on the inside. This problematic of place to exist among the other will often be because of blocks to be themselves and being with the others. The therapy will have as primary objective the facilitation of the capacity to be oneself with a profound work on the identity. Remember that the biological function gives the sense, the direction to find the assumption of emotional experience. And as always, the big question to ask it, what is the use of this presence, of this fat, of this weight? In the next podcast, we will talk about our relationship to food. Thank you for your attention and sorry for my bad action. You can find the first podcast on YouTube, BBG Décodage. See you soon.